Among all the stunning events unfolding in the world today, one stands out as the most significant. Germany has taken control of the European Union.
The Philadelphia Church of God presents the Trumpet Daily.
The EU is in crisis. Financial calamity is toppling the governments of its member nations. Crippling debt is forcing countries to beg EU leaders for help. Germany has the strongest national economy in the Union, and it has positioned itself to provide that help, but at a steep cost. Step by step, Berlin is gaining control over other European nations and taking command of the entire unification project. Watchful observers are eyeing these events with suspicion, and some are speaking out. Seeing the Germans gain so much power has many people nervous, and for good reason. Amid this financial crisis, Germany is achieving exactly what it wanted but failed at in 2 world wars: control of Europe. To see the magnitude of this development, one needs to understand history. That certainly includes the shattering events of World Wars I and II. But there is far more recent history that is also deeply revealing of the true danger in what is happening in Europe today. The setting of this history is Southern Europe's hotly contested and strategic underbelly, the Balkans. In the early 1900s, Germany was looking to expand its empire. Berlin wanted to control the Balkan Peninsula and needed a pretext to launch an offensive there. It goaded Austria and Hungary into putting such steep demands on Serbia that the Serbs couldn't possibly meet them. In 1914, the trigger for World War I occurred in the Bosnian capital of Sarajevo, when Austria's Archduke Franz Ferdinand was shot dead by a Serb nationalist. Germany used the assassination as cause to start a war. Soon all of Europe was engulfed in the worst warfare in human history. Serbian forces resisted the German and Austro-Hungarian attack, and the Balkans became soaked with blood. The city of Belgrade fell to German-led forces in 1915, and Germany ruled the area for 3 years. It wasn't until right at the end of the war that the demolished capital city was finally liberated by Serbian and French troops. Germany's plan to control the Balkans ended in failure. When Germany sought to dominate Europe in the Second World War, Yugoslavia was again high on its list of targets. In April of 1941, German, Italian, and Hungarian forces attacked. The rebuilt Serbian capital was again decimated by the German Air Force. The German army invaded Belgrade and took hundreds of thousands of Yugoslavian soldiers captive. The occupying Axis powers proceeded to eliminate the Yugoslav threat by splintering the country. Germany absorbed Slovenia into the Third Reich and occupied parts of Serbia, as well as Bosnia and Herzegovina. Berlin then established the independent state of Croatia as a Nazi puppet regime. It appointed a fascist anti-Yugoslav separatist movement, called the Ustasha, to rule and to carry out its Holocaust operations there. The Ustasha killed hundreds of thousands of Serbs and Jews in concentration camps, sometimes using very gruesome methods.
No one can overestimate the fear that Eastern Europeans, people in the Balkans, have of the Germans. The memory of the occupations is still seared in their minds. The German occupation was unspeakably brutal, particularly in Yugoslavia, and particularly with the Serbians, because during World War II the Croatians were allied with the Germans, whereas the Serbs fought them.
Croatian leader Ante Pavelić forcibly converted tens of thousands of Serbian Orthodox to Roman Catholicism on threat of execution. For this, he received the blessing of senior Vatican leaders and the praise of Pope Pius XII. The Pope personally received Pavelić in a private audience in 1941, even after evidence of the Croat leader's atrocities had already become well known. As Mark Ahrens and John Loftus wrote in their 1991 book Unholy Trinity, Pavelić also knew that the Holy See looked on Croatia as the frontier of Christianity. A special relationship between Croatia and the Pope extended back to 700 AD. At the war's end, the Vatican went on to protect the fugitive Croatian leader. Along with thousands of war criminals and Nazis, Catholic leaders smuggled Pavelić to Argentina through its infamous rat lines. Yugoslav resistance to the Axis powers in World War II was largely led by Serbian and pro-Serbian forces. The Allies recognized these fighters and supplied assistance to drive the German-led Axis out of Serbia in 1944. Thus, during the most destructive wars in history, America and the Serbs were united against their common enemy, Germany. After that enemy was vanquished, Yugoslavia unified once again under the rule of Marshal Josip Broz Tito. Even as the country looked forward to a brighter future, it grieved over the deaths of about 1 million of its people in World War II. This history provides important context for more recent events. Though Germany lost both world wars, its leaders never forgot their dreams of empire. And in later years, when they felt the time had come to revive that long-held ambition, they looked again to dominate the region they had twice conquered by force of arms. Once more, they set their sights on the Balkans. When the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, it reunited East and West Germany into a single nation. Western leaders praised the unification in public. In private, however, many of them were deeply concerned. Recently released official transcripts of Kremlin meetings show that the leaders of France, Britain, and Russia were privately discussing the danger of a unified Germany. It wasn't long before these fears began to be confirmed. In 1991, Croatia and Slovenia moved to become independent of Yugoslavia. Virtually the whole world opposed the move, including the United Nations, NATO, even the European Economic Community. Yugoslavia was in turmoil. The region had a long history of dangerous volatility. It was clear that such a huge geopolitical shift would totally destabilize the Balkans. That is why the world saw the situation as a danger, and that is exactly why Germany saw it as an opportunity. In December 1991, Germany boldly defied global opinion and extended diplomatic recognition to the two breakaway states. The Vatican, that age-old ally of Roman Catholic Croatia, did the same. America and the rest of Europe protested this aggressive move, so Germany threatened to pull out of the European Union. This put these nations in a difficult position. European leaders decided the issue wasn't worth fighting over. The rest of the European economic community caved and followed Germany's position. The UN Security Council followed along. The New York Times reported, "The Security Council backed away from a confrontation with Germany over Yugoslavia today after Germany's European allies on the Council decided that they did not want a major clash with Bonn." These were areas the Nazis had dominated during the last World War. That same Times article said that by extending diplomatic recognition of Croatia and Slovenia, Germany has stirred troubling historical associations. Observers were taken aback by Germany's unusual assertiveness and saw its victory as a major sign of its new power within Europe. Despite these concerns, however, even America reversed its position and followed Germany's lead. This startling foreign policy shift enraged Britain and other American allies. These nations had hoped that the European unification project would keep Germany under control, with help from America. Instead, America helped Germany enforce its will on the rest of Europe. This failure to stand up to Germany early on set the scene for the transformation of the entire Yugoslav region and the rest of Europe as well. After Croatia gained its independence in 1991, it acknowledged its indebtedness to its European benefactor by adopting the hymn Danke Deutschland, Thank You, Germany.
Mein Land, danke Deutschland, vielen Dank. Wir sind jetzt nicht alt.
The Germans began to support the breakaway republics of Croatia and Slovenia with troops and armaments, and soon after, just as many observers had predicted, civil war broke out in Yugoslavia. The conflict spread from Croatia and Slovenia into Bosnia-Herzegovina and Serbia. Many observers said that Germany was at fault. U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher said that Germany had a certain responsibility for the war. Remarkably, though, international criticism centered on Europe not for initiating the war, but for failing to step in and clean up the mess. Calls grew for the European Union and Germany to become more involved in the region. The U.S. began to pursue a policy to encourage Germany's political dominance of Europe. It supported Germany's presence in Croatia as part of this plan. As Joseph de Corsi wrote in August of 1995, the recent events in the former Yugoslavia, important and dangerous as they are, form only a small part of an overall U.S.-German plan for Europe. America's solution is to encourage and support German hegemony in both East and West Europe, so Germany, with the full backing of America, is to be the sole great power of Europe. Having gained a foothold in Croatia, Germany worked through the rest of the 1990s to leverage its position against the Serbs. Germany broadened its ties with Albania to the south of Yugoslavia. It also targeted the Kosovo region in the southern part of Serbia. Germany laid the groundwork for rending Kosovo from Serbia by supporting an internationally unrecognized government in exile whose prime minister was based in Germany. It supplied financial support to a radical Albanian guerrilla army called the Kosovo Liberation Army in waging a terrorist campaign against the Serbs. The Serbs could see who was behind these events. On a Serbian radio broadcast in 1998, commentator Malika Sundik accused Germany of warmongering and warned the rest of Europe against a rebirth of German fascism. It is difficult to comprehend and accept that Europe has become Germany's slave, he said. When Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic retaliated against the violence perpetrated by the Kosovo Liberation Army, Germany swooped in. They were ready and eager to neutralize their long-term enemy. The German defense minister accused the Serbs of genocide and of setting up concentration camps. The Germans convinced NATO to act swiftly to subdue the Serbian forces. Stratfor reported, Germany is leading the campaign for a quick and, if necessary, military solution to the conflict in Kosovo. Once again, the Germans got their way. In the Kosovo War of 1999, NATO forces went to work in furthering Germany's national interests. The war dealt a fatal blow to Serbia. The New York Times noted that the conflict was the first time since World War II that German fighter jets had gone to war. The Times said it marked Germany's definitive emancipation from post-war pacifism. It then made this chilling observation. The German participation in air raids on Yugoslavia is potentially explosive, for it will confirm every dark Serbian suspicion about the West. If there has been a single obsession in Serbian policy this century, it has been to prevent what Belgrade sees as German expansionism in the Balkans. This dramatic sequence of events exposed Germany's plan to shatter Yugoslavia and transform it into a collection of European colonies. During World War II, Serbia had been allied with the United States against Germany. In the Kosovo War, Germany was able to recruit America's help to bring Serbia down. The plan succeeded wildly. In one swoop, Germany bent the U.S. and Europe to its will. It used NATO forces to achieve its own national aims and neutralized a former enemy. On top of that, the theater of war in the Balkans gave Germany an area in which to test and build its own military. Further, by attaining victory there, Germany actually began to construct an eastern leg for a future German-dominated superstate. After systematically dismantling Yugoslavia, Germany cemented its control over this region. Following the Kosovo War, NATO, particularly the United States, wanted to get out of the Balkans and transfer responsibility for military operations to the Europeans. NATO began its withdrawal in 2002. The EU began its own first-ever policing missions in Bosnia in 2003. The area quickly became a proving ground for EU military ambitions, as Stratfor called it at the time. This is what Stratfor wrote on April 29, 2002. With the United States committed to disengaging from the Balkans, Germany will emerge as the dominant power in there, and by extension, in European defense policy. How true that statement turned out to be. Today, Slovenia is a member of the European Union. It joined the Eurozone in 2007 and even held the presidency of the EU Council for the first 6 months in 2008. Croatia became a member of the European Union in 2013. All the other countries that emerged from former Yugoslavia, as well as neighboring Albania, are trying to become EU members. Macedonia and Montenegro have been officially accepted as EU candidates. 4 others, including Serbia, as well as its former province, Kosovo, are potential candidates. It all amounts to a stunning coup for Germany. Now, with Germany's power over Europe all the more obvious, the true nature of this breathtaking history has become impossible to ignore. Few people recognized the significance of these events as they were happening. The Trumpet's editor-in-chief, Gerald Fleury, was among those few. He wrote several articles and recorded several television programs exposing Germany's plan.
Look at what's happening in Yugoslavia. I'll tell you, in every bit of that, you can find Germany's fingerprints and Germany's footprints in what's going on in Yugoslavia. The Serbs are enraged by it, and I think they have some justification for that. But is Germany behind the scenes really directing NATO very aggressively? I can show you in this report here that they've been the most aggressive nation in wanting to set a date to attack the Serbs and get on with the war.
In August 1999, Mr. Fleury published an important article for the Trumpet titled "Germany is Conquering the Balkans." He wrote, "Once again, the Germans are structuring an empire. They've been aggressive, out in the open, from the time of their deliberate tactic of destabilizing the Balkans to their brilliant takeover of the endgame. They will never leave the Balkan Peninsula now. Germany now has its Balkan corridor to the Adriatic, the Mediterranean, and Eastern Europe, for all intents and purposes, signed, sealed, and delivered. A masterful stroke of German diplomatic thoroughness. On the cover of the June 2002 Trumpet issue, Mr. Fleury described Yugoslavia as being nothing less than the first victim of World War III. The German-dominated EU now has control of the first colonies of its new empire. These statements didn't spring simply from insightful news analysis. They were informed by a source even more reliable than history in projecting their outcome. It's true that to see the importance of this series of events in Europe, one needs to understand history. But to truly grasp how dangerous it is, one also needs something else. There is a key that unlocks the meaning of monumental events and shows where these events are leading. It was that key that has led the Trumpet magazine to beat the drum for its entire 24-year history, warning of a German takeover of Europe. And it was that key that led the Plain Truth magazine to do the same for over 50 years before that. That key is biblical prophecy. The prophecies in Scripture vividly foretold what we are seeing unfold before our eyes. But they did more than predict current events. They also reveal their catastrophic outcome. These prophecies give strong warnings that have become far more urgent in light of recent events. Prophecy foretold a resurrection in our day of the medieval Holy Roman Empire, the most destructive empire in human history. That is what makes Germany's repeated attempts to structure an empire so dangerous, and its recent success so alarming. Revelation 13 and 17 speak of 10 European kings that will combine in our day into a single superpower. It is described symbolically as a beast with 10 horns. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength to the beast. Other prophecies show that the dominant nation among the 10 kings will be Germany, and that this terrifying empire will be guided and held together by the spiritual influence of the Roman Catholic Church. Scripture does not explicitly state which nations in Europe will come together, but a prophecy in the book of Daniel shows that this empire will have 2 legs, east and west. This has been the case historically with the Roman Empire. Looking at the prophecies, Herbert W. Armstrong spoke frequently about the inevitability of Europe's unification for over 60 years. Even as Germany lay smoldering in ruins after World War II, he prophesied that it would rise again. When the nation was split in two in 1949 as East Germany became occupied by the Soviets, he said it would be reunited. He proclaimed well in advance that European nations would form an economic bloc, which would pave the road for political and eventual military union. In 1980, anticipating the building of the eastern leg of that empire, 9 years before the Berlin Wall fell, Mr. Armstrong declared, "It now looks entirely feasible that Yugoslavia may be included in this revived Roman Empire. Also, the Pope's native Poland and Romania, and possibly Hungary. Add Austria, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and France. There will be a union of 10 nations in the general area of the medieval Roman Empire in the new united Europe." All of these prophecies are coming to pass, or are already history. Conditions in Europe today provide dramatic proof of the accuracy of the Bible's prophecies. Yugoslavia's fall to become a set of European colonies exposes the true nature of this rising German-dominated empire. And these events should help all of us to recognize the deadly seriousness of the scriptural warnings about what is going to happen next. The prophet Jeremiah wrote about a boiling cauldron, and the face thereof is from the north. This churning, scalding pot from the north symbolizes Europe, and it has reached the point where anyone can recognize it. The trouble is, far too many are caught up in petty personal interests to notice. Referring to this prophecy in a March 2003 article, German-led EU conquers Yugoslavia, Gerald Fleury wrote, "People could see and even feel the seething if they only understood a little history, but they refuse to be taught by history, even quite recent history. There are only a few short years before the pot boils over." How well do you understand the urgency of the times? The perspective on present events afforded by biblical prophecy is crucial. It was because of that perspective that Mr. Fleury was able to write more than a decade ago, "Brace yourselves. A strong militaristic Germany is marching once again, and its destruction this time will make its crimes in World Wars I and II look like child's play. World War III has already begun. Soon all of Europe will be under Germany's control, and that is only the beginning." Today, all of Europe is under Germany's control. This is just as Herbert Armstrong predicted, just as Gerald Fleury prophesied, just as the Bible said. If you want to better understand the importance of biblical prophecy in forecasting the news before it happens, and to better appreciate the urgency of the times, we'd like to send you a free copy of Germany's Conquest of the Balkans. This is a booklet Gerald Fleury first wrote back in 1999, but its view of history through the lens of biblical prophecy makes it powerfully relevant today. It has been updated to include more recent events that bring it right up to date. This booklet will give you a much deeper comprehension of the tremendous importance of what is happening in Europe. In light of recent events, Germany's Conquest of the Balkans is riveting reading. Visit thetrumpet.com and click on the literature link to request your free copy today. Or if you'd like to request your copy over the phone and you live in North America, call toll-free 1-877-471-9646.